So I can tell that's probably coming across a little bit confusing.
Don't start that. Don't do that to me. What the heck?
No.
All right, Chris, we're back. So today we're going to be talking about ceramic spray coating. Can you just tell me how you came up with this formulation and kind of the journey it was to get to this point now?
Yeah, this is a pretty complex product. Originally when we were designing the paint, trim, and wheel sort of coatings, it occurred to me one day, I was like, wouldn't it be very easy if we built this into a lower activity and accommodated the chemistry so that you could spray it and wipe it? And wouldn't that allow it to be sort of, useful for a lot of surfaces and kind of design the application to be very easy to use? And it sort of has taken on a life of its own since then. We're constantly learning new things it does. Textiles, for instance, you guys have applied it to convertible tops, which is something that I never really intended on it to do. Easily goes on glass, plastics, all that sort of stuff. Basically only rubber is a surface that we've noticed it doesn't really have much effect, but it seems like we've kind of tailored the chemistry to get it to a point of where it's safe for just about every surface, and so you can practically apply it to everything.
Adam actually just told me this. He had a detail clinic a few weeks ago, and
I just had a Corvette clinic at the headquarters on Saturday.
He said, is anybody here scared to ceramic coat their car? And
half of them raised their hand and the other half were going, yeah, I'm afraid.
He started demoing ceramic spray coating, and really when people would see the hydrophobicity on the car or the water behavior, that was like, everyone gravitates toward that. That's what everyone wants to see. That's how you know your car is protected. So, explain to me why the hydrophobicity is so apparent with this product, and explain hydrophobics to me a little bit.
When we then want to quantify a level of hydrophobicity, we do it via contact angle. So what you're really talking about when you think about a contact angle is the size and shape of that bead on the surface. If a surface is very low energy, in the case of a ceramic coating, it's going to apply very little forces on the edge of that droplet, and so then the droplet can pull more into a spherical shape. As well as if the topography of the surface is very flat and uniform, it'll also allow the water droplet to stand very tall. The more regular the surface is, the more that droplet's gonna kind of change shape to conform to that surface. We've got an optical tensiometer which allows us to actively look down the lens of a camera at a water droplet and quantify the size of that droplet by how many microliters is on the surface, as well as it automatically generates a tangential angle with that surface and generates that characteristic contact angle.
We have different ceramic coatings for different surfaces in regards to, our highly concentrated bottles like these ones.
Sure.
Explain to me again the film thickness and kind of how that relates to, a wheel coating, a paint coating, trim, and even to the ceramic spray coating.
So in the case of our coatings, again, these are all the same constituents within the bottles. So if you're altering the ratios, they're ultimately going to all have the same durability. That's their physical and chemical durability. Okay. But they're going to have different longevities, because if you've got one generating a substantial film of like maybe 3+ microns, you've got another one generating you a film of a half of a micron or a micron, and they're wearing away at about the same rate, one's gonna disappear obviously before another one. So imagine you had your wheel coating would be a full ream of paper. Your paint coating might only be half of that ream of paper, and your spray coating may only be a handful of sheets of that entire ream. Yeah. So now imagine everything else is held equal, and you're washing your vehicle, and as you're doing this, one sheet of paper is wearing away at a time on all 3 different kinds of coatings. As you're gonna tell, eventually the spray coating is gonna be worn away already, while you still have film thickness to wear away on the other 2. Yeah. And so that's kind of a better way to understand sort of the wear pattern on these and why film build is so important. Okay. And kind of tying it all back to activity level.
Yeah, so to me that's really saying that, if you put all the work up front, a little bit more, wheel coating is a little more difficult to apply, but in the long run it's gonna last longer, whereas like a spray coating you should be applying more often, essentially. Is that?
Absolutely. And that's why following an application process is so very important, because what we're trying to illustrate with our application process is how do you get the most absolutely thick film build as possible, and you get the most longevity out of that coating that you can. Your durability is a function of your chemical resistance and your physical abrasion resistance, whereas longevity is going to be literally how long does this last, or how, if something's exposed to the same sort of wear, measuring longevity would be how long is that going to take to get that off. And so of course longevity is going to vary considerably depending on whether you're in a area with a lot of sand and you might sandblast your car, or you're in an area that gets a lot of snow and there's mag chloride and salts, or you're by a coast. It's going to largely depend on where you're at. So when we give longevities, we're largely giving a sort of generalized sort of approach to how long you can expect it to last, but it's ultimately going to vary wildly depending upon how you treat your car, if it's garaged, if it's parked by something nasty. So getting back into a lot of the utility and the uses for the ceramic spray coating, one thing I particularly want to highlight is its use over the top of other more durable, harder to use coatings.
Like say like a wheel coating.
Yes, absolutely, or even your paint coating. In some instances when you're applying those, some people get nervous because under the right conditions, or I guess the wrong conditions, the coating might suddenly become a little bit more difficult to wipe down. One of the utilities we found out with the ceramic spray coating is you can apply that over the top of that coating to make it easier to use. One of the formulary challenges we have when we're developing coatings is that there's a direct relationship between ease of use and the durability. The more resins we include into a formulation, usually the harder the coating is going to be to use ultimately. And so as we lower the amount of resins in there, the coating also gets easier to apply. What we found out with the ceramic spray coating is it breaks that relationship and allows you to get the best of both worlds, where you can use a very durable, very high longevity coating and still make it very, very easy to use by allowing that coating to really tack up while you're applying it, and then simply using the ceramic spray coating to wipe it down. You can simply mist it onto your towel or mist it onto the surface after you've allowed the coating to tack up heavily. The ceramic spray coating is going to allow that lubrication factor and make that application very, very easy, even if the coating is a very high actives, durable, resinous kind of coating.
We're talking about ceramic coatings, and at Adams Polishes we created somewhat of a silo for ceramic protection. And what we wanted to do was have white labels that were preparation products,
utility and things like that,
before you put on a ceramic coating, and then maintenance products. And we say these are silica infused or SiO2.
Yeah, that's accurate.
What makes these effective with like a ceramic coating?
So realistically, when you're using something like a ceramic coating, any of these products, you're changing the molecular layers on that surface. So you're no longer playing with clear coat. Now you're playing with the ceramic coating itself. So you have to use chemistries that now play well with that. So I like to call it a new school versus old school. Old school, you have clear coat and you're using waxes and silicones and stuff. Now we're using silica resins, ceramics, and you're changing kind of the game and the nature of the chemistry there. The whole point of these is with these kind of families of chemistry, you can layer them on top of each other sort of frivolously, because they're all going to jive together and work together very readily. If you tried to put a ceramic over the top of a wax, or a wax over the top of a ceramic, in the case of a wax on the ceramic's going to shed that just like it would any other contaminant. But in the case of a ceramic over the top of a wax, you've now anchored something very durable to something that's very not durable. So as that not durable component wears away, it's just going to take the ceramic with it. So once you change the chemistry of your clear coat, you have to sort of work with a new family of chemistry in terms of maintaining it.
How does it work with something like ceramic liquid wax or ceramic paste wax? Is that just because it's not carnauba? Or?
Correct, yeah. So in these kinds of products like that, we're actually using synthetic variants on waxes, things that were engineered literally to be an evolution on carnauba. So these are things that, again, are playing into that whole silica theme or a synthetic theme. And they're not natural-based waxes or sealants.
Okay, thank you for all the information today. And,
hopefully I built out some context for why these things were developed and what they're really intended to do.
While I'm doing stuff and I see the water behavior, it's like I can understand it a little bit better. So
absolutely.
I look forward to the next the next video we shoot, and I'm just excited to be doing this.
Wonderful.
Well,
Till then.
thanks, Chris.